Picture Jack Sparrow standing on the deck of the Black Pearl, wind in his beads, rum in his hand, grinning at death like it's an old drinking buddy. He survives the Kraken. He survives Davy Jones. He walks out of the afterlife itself. And yet, if you drop the real Jack Sparrow into the real Caribbean of 1715, with a real crew, a real ship, and none of Disney's magic, there is a very good chance he would be dead within 2 weeks. Not from a cutlass, not from a cannonball, not even from the noose. From something far quieter, far crueler, and far more certain: thirst. It sounds almost insulting, doesn't it? The most legendary pirate in cinema history, undone by a glass of water he never had. But this is not a joke, and it is not an exaggeration. It is naval record. It is ship's log. It is the forgotten horror of the Golden Age of Piracy, the one thing Hollywood never puts on screen. Because it isn't cinematic. It's just true. So let's do something the movies never had the nerve to do. Let's put Jack Sparrow on a real ship, in a real ocean, and follow him day by day as the water runs out. Here is the paradox that every sailor of the Golden Age lived inside, and every pirate movie conveniently ignores. You are surrounded in every direction by more water than the human mind can measure, and you cannot drink a single drop of it. Seawater doesn't just fail to help you, it actively kills you faster than not drinking at all. The salt concentration in ocean water is so much higher than the salt concentration in human blood that your kidneys have to pull extra fresh water out of your own body just to flush the excess salt back out. You are, quite literally, dehydrating yourself with every sip, and the more desperate you get, the more tempting that poisoned water becomes. So every ship that ever left port in the age of sail was really carrying two separate cargoes. One was whatever the voyage was actually for: gold, slaves, spices, plunder. The other, quietly, was the true limiting factor of the entire journey. How many wooden casks of fresh water could be crammed below deck, and how long could they possibly last? This is where Jack Sparrow's story really begins. Not with a sword fight, with a barrel. Day 1. The Black Pearl clears port with her water casks full, maybe 4,000 gallons for a crew of 150 men, which sounds generous until you do the math that no captain wanted to do out loud. A single sailor, doing hard physical labor under a tropical sun, needs close to a gallon of water a day just to stay functional. Multiply that by the crew, add the cook's needs, add the animals sometimes kept on board, and that 4,000 gallons is gone in under a month. In perfect conditions. Perfect conditions almost never happened. And this is the first turning point in Jack's story, the one the audience doesn't see coming. The ship was never actually stocked for the voyage it was about to take. It was stocked for the voyage the captain hoped he was about to take. By day 9, something worse than running low happens. The water itself turns against them. Wooden casks in a hot, damp cargo hold are basically incubators. Algae blooms green and slimy along the inside walls. Worms, the same worms that riddled ship's biscuit, work their way into the staves. The water starts to smell like a swamp, and men who are already rationed to a pint a day now have to decide whether to drink something that smells like rot or ration themselves even further. This is turning point 2, and it is one the movies never touch. The enemy wasn't running out of water. The enemy was the water that remained. This is exactly why sailors invented grog, watered-down rum, sometimes cut with a splash of lime or lemon juice when they were lucky enough to have it. The alcohol content was just high enough to kill some of the bacteria breeding in the rotting casks, which made grog genuinely safer to drink than the raw water sitting beside it. Jack Sparrow's rum isn't comic relief, it's survival gear. But here comes the twist buried inside the solution itself. Turning here is point 3. Alcohol is a diuretic. It makes the kidneys shed water even faster than plain dehydration alone. Every swig of grog that made the water safer to drink was simultaneously speeding up how fast the body burned through it. The very thing keeping the crew alive in the short term was quietly shortening the clock on how long they could survive at all. Day 14. The wind dies. This is the part no swashbuckling montage ever shows, because there is nothing to film. A becalmed ship in the Caribbean doesn't look dramatic, it just sits there, sails hanging limp. The sun climbing higher every single day with nothing to block it. For a modern reader, this is an inconvenience. For an 18th century crew, a dead calm during a water shortage was closer to a death sentence with a delayed fuse. Turning here is point 4. The ocean itself stops cooperating at exactly the moment the crew can least afford it. There is no villain to blame, no enemy captain to outwit, just weather, indifferent and unmovable, and a hold full of casks getting emptier by the hour. Somewhere around day 16, someone breaks. It always happened, and ship's logs from the period record it with a kind of weary familiarity. A crewman, driven mad by thirst, sneaks an extra ration, or worse. Gives in and drinks straight seawater despite knowing better. This is turning point 5, and it's the one that turns a slow crisis into a fast one. The salt water doesn't just fail to quench his thirst, it accelerates the exact process he was trying to escape. Within hours, his own body is pulling reserves from every cell to flush the excess sodium. He becomes more dehydrated than the men who drank nothing at all. Hallucinations follow. Sailors on real voyages have recorded seeing land masses that weren't there, hearing voices, seeing dead crewmates walking the deck. The mind, starved of water, starts inventing its own relief. And here is where the character we know as Jack Sparrow would stop being charming and start being dangerous. Not to his enemies, but to his own crew. Turning here is point 6. Severe dehydration doesn't just wreck the body, it wrecks judgment. Historical accounts of dehydrated crews describe captains making inexplicable decisions, changing course for no clear reason, misreading maps they'd read correctly 100 times before, snapping into rage over nothing. The clever, quick-thinking pirate captain the films rely on for every escape simply cannot exist past a certain point of dehydration. The wit dries up along with everything else. Before we get to the part of this voyage that actually killed most real crews, hit that subscribe button and ring the bell, because we go this deep into the history behind the legends every single week here on Bilge Bound. Now back to the ship, because thirst was only the first half of the nightmare. This isn't theoretical. Naval and merchant records from the 17th and 18th centuries are full of voyages where water, not weapons, decided who lived. Ships crossing the doldrums, that notorious band of dead air near the equator, sometimes sat motionless for weeks, with casks emptying in the heat. Surviving muster rolls occasionally list crews that departed with well over 100 names and arrived at the next port missing a third of them, with the surgeon's notes blaming flux, fever, and simple exhaustion brought on by rationed water rather than any battle at all. No cannon fired, no boarding party ever crossed those decks. The ocean did the killing quietly, one man at a time, and it rarely made it into the official adventure stories told back on land. Turning point 7 changes the entire shape of the story. This was never just about water. It was about everything fresh disappearing at once. Fresh fruit and vegetables rot within days at sea, which meant that within a few weeks. Every man aboard was also sliding into a vitamin C deficiency. Scurvy doesn't announce itself with a single dramatic symptom it creeps. Gums swell and bleed. Old wounds and long-healed broken bones reopen as if the body is unraveling backward through its own history. Teeth loosen and fall out. Fatigue sets in so deep that men who once hauled rigging without complaint can barely stand a watch. This is the real reason so many pirate portraits show gap-toothed, weathered faces. It wasn't style, it was scurvy, quietly rewriting every long voyage into a slow-motion medical emergency. The cruelest part is that nobody on that ship understood why it was happening. The link between fresh produce and this slow unraveling of the body wouldn't be formally proven for decades after the Golden Age of Piracy had already ended, so crews treated scurvy the way they treated bad luck, as something to endure rather than something to cure. A captain might have a hold full of rum, gunpowder, and stolen silver. and still have absolutely no way to stop his own men from rotting from the inside out, simply because nobody yet knew that the cure was as ordinary as a lime. Turning Point 8 is the one that would have broken the Black Pearl specifically, and it has nothing to do with sea monsters. A ship that fast, built for speed and maneuverability rather than cargo capacity, sacrifices hold space. The very design that makes her legendary in the films, sleek, low, quick to outrun a Navy frigate, means less room below deck for water casks in the first place. The fastest ship in the Caribbean would, in reality, have been one of the worst ships to be stuck aboard during a long, becalmed crossing. Speed and survival pulled in opposite directions, and no shipwright of the era ever fully solved that trade-off. By day 20, Turning Point 9 arrives, and it's the quiet mutiny nobody plans for. Not a mutiny of swords and shouted accusations, but the kind ship's articles were specifically written to prevent: arguments over rationing. Crews on real voyages have left records of fights breaking out over who got the last cup from the cask, of men hiding small private stores of water and being discovered, of captains forced to post armed guards over the remaining supply, guards drawn from their own already weakened, already desperate crew. The romantic idea of pirate solidarity, brothers of the coast bound by loyalty, gets tested by nothing more dramatic than thirst, and it frequently failed the test. Turning Point 10 is the cruelest one, because it involves rain, the one thing that should have been salvation. Sailors developed elaborate systems for catching rainwater, canvas sails rigged into funnels, barrels positioned under every possible runoff point, because a single good tropical downpour could refill a ship's entire reserve in under an hour. But the Caribbean does not deliver rain on a survivor's schedule. Real logs describe crews watching storm clouds build on the horizon for days, gathering hope with every darkening sky, only to watch the storm curve away or dissipate before a single drop fell on their deck. When the rain finally does come, for some ships it arrives after men have already died waiting for it, which means the very thing that would have saved them shows up as tragedy instead of rescue. And then, Turning Point 11, the twist that reframes everything we think we know about pirate combat, a sail appears on the horizon. In the films, this is the moment of adventure, cannons readied, crew rallying, Jack grinning at the challenge. In reality, a severely dehydrated, scurvy-ridden crew is in no condition to fight anyone. Naval reports from the period describe boarding parties finding enemy crews too weak to properly resist, men who could barely lift a cutlass, let alone swing one with force. Some of history's most one-sided pirate victories weren't won through superior tactics or fearsome reputation. They were won because the other ship's crew was already half dead from thirst before a single shot was fired. The real terror of the Caribbean wasn't a rival captain. It was whichever crew's water ran out first. Which brings us to Turning Point 12, the one that finally answers the question this whole video is built around. Historians studying mortality records from Golden Age voyages have found something the movies would never dare put in a trailer: dehydration, scurvy, and the diseases that spread through weakened, thirst-ravaged crews killed vastly more sailors and pirates than combat ever did. Cannonballs and cutlasses made for dramatic paintings. Slow, silent physiological collapse filled far more graves. If Jack Sparrow really existed, chasing real treasure across a real ocean with nothing but a compass that doesn't point north, and a habit of trusting fate over provisions, the ending wouldn't be a duel on a beach or a sword fight on a runaway mill wheel. It would be far quieter than that. A man too weak to stand, watching an empty horizon, waiting on a sky that refuses to rain. There's something strangely humbling in that. We remember pirates for their audacity, their flags, their legendary tempers and legendary luck. We rarely remember that most of them were, first and last, just men trapped on small wooden platforms in the middle of an ocean that could kill them a dozen quiet ways before an enemy ever got the chance. Jack Sparrow's genius, on screen, is that he always seems to know exactly how to escape the trap. The real trap, the one no wit or charm could talk your way out of, was thirst, and it was patient, and it was everywhere, and it never once needed to fire a shot. Maybe that's why the legend survives the way it does. Nobody wants to remember piracy as a slow, grinding negotiation with dehydration and rotten water. It's far more comfortable to remember the flag, the cutlass, the grin. But every time you watch that grin flash across the screen, it's worth remembering the version of the story that never made it to film. The one where the real enemy was never a ghost ship or a sea monster, just a barrel, quietly going empty below deck. So here's the question worth sitting with. Knowing everything you just heard, how long do you actually think you'd last out there? No magic curse to save you, no supernatural captain to blame, just a hold full of rotting water casks and a sky that won't cooperate. Drop your guess in the comments. I genuinely want to know. If this kind of history, the real uncomfortable history hiding underneath the legends we grew up loving, is your kind of thing, subscribe to Bilge Bound and turn on notifications, because next week we go back out to sea for a story just as brutal as this one. Until then, stay thirsty for the truth, just not for the ocean.